A broker, if done right, a brokerage will give you a lot of cost and experience benefit. If done wrong, it can be equally as bad, if not worse, than a bad bank. So, long story short, know who you're working with.
Welcome to Agent Success Podcast. If you're a real estate agent looking to succeed in today's crazy market, well, you're in the right place. Each week, we talk with successful real estate agents willing to share their expert insights, trade secrets, and mindset that help them to succeed. There's no fluff, just straight to the point content that prioritizes one thing above all, your success. So without further ado, let's cut to the chase.
Welcome to another episode of Cut to the Chase at agentsuccesspodcast.com. I'm your host. Well, sometimes I'm your host. Today, I'm actually doing a little different. I'm getting interviewed by a real estate agent. I have no idea what we're going to talk about. I have not seen the questions, so we may talk about real estate. We may talk about my lack of preparation for this podcast. We may talk about mortgages. We may talk about political views and world violence. I don't know what we're going to talk about, but it's all going to be focused on actually interviewing me today. So I'm kind of excited. I don't know if I've ever done a reverse podcast before.
I don't think I've ever seen anybody ask you questions.
I know, right? It's kind of a very selfish approach that I've had over the course I've been doing this of just, give me, and now all of a sudden I have to give. So, well, Miss Interviewer, please introduce yourself.
I'm Alyssa Mazzetti. I work with ERA Shields Real Estate, and I've actually next month I'll be there for 4 years.
4 years.
I know. I thought about that yesterday.
Wow.
I know.
All right. So you started in November
with ERA.
With ERA, yeah.
I've been doing real estate though for like 9 years.
You see how I switched this around really quickly?
I know.
That was just like a natural, like let's start gathering data as fast as possible, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question before we start?
Sure.
What made you want to have ask me questions?
Reverse.
Yeah, to reverse this. What sparked that?
I actually called Marquise 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, gosh, he asked me this question last time I was there. And I really want to know, if I were to reverse the question,
how I would answer it,
what his response would be.
Oh, sweet. Okay.
And so then her and I just kind of came up with it then.
And then the whole thing came up like for the next 30 or 40 minutes we're going to.
It spiraled out of control in like a 6-minute phone conversation.
Oh,
and now
gotcha.
Here we are.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yes.
That's a really beautiful accent. Is that French or British? What is that?
Michigan.
Wisconsin?
Almost. More east. More east.
I'm just messing with you. All right. So
I thought I was getting good at getting it gone.
Yeah, getting it gone.
It's not happening.
That's okay. So what are you drinking today? Looks like an ice brew.
Yes, I have the ice brew.
The ice brew. Okay.
It's good.
Yeah.
I saw coffee and was sold.
Yeah. Didn't take much, did it?
No. Just pretty low maintenance.
The word coffee. Man, I'll take 2. Thank you.
Yes.
So I am the interviewee today.
Yes.
So I'm an open book,
Okay.
and if it gets too intrusive or personal, I'll tell you it's none of your business. But until that point, I'm an open book.
Okay. We'll forget we didn't hear that.
Yeah.
Part.
Well, it's really. I guess that really means I'm a closed book. But go ahead. Let's get this thing going. I'm very excited. This is awesome.
Just basics, because we've had lots of conversations over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But how did you get into lending?
Oh.
I don't think that's a conversation we've actually ever had.
No, most people don't have any idea how I got into lending. In 2000 or 2001, I got a real estate license, and I started doing real estate. And I worked for a guy that knew how to maintain his business but not grow his business. So he had been a real estate agent for many years, and so in my naive approach, I was like, well, he has success. He'll mentor me. Well, he mentored me in staying in contact with people, not growing a business, not building a business, right, as a real estate agent. So it was very, very tough. And I told him, I said, hey, look, I promise you no other agent's going to outwork me. I will outwork everybody. I just have to know what to do. Like you put me on the path, and I will. So the first thing he did, here's a phone book. He's starting the A's. This is before do not call list, right?
Yeah.
and you say, "Hi, I'm Tim Chase at King Street Realty here, and I was wondering if you or anybody you know are looking to buy or sell real estate now or in the near future." No, okay, thank you. Click. Hi, this is Tim Chase. Over for hours. Never got a single thing, and I was like, I must be saying something wrong because this script, either the script sucks or I suck. I don't know which one. So I go to him, and he's like, "Oh, yeah, sometimes that's the way it is out of the phone book." I was like, "Well, thanks for the heads up there, buddy." Yeah.
Why'd you give it to me?
2 weeks later, yeah. He's like, "What you need to do is actually, have you ever heard of what they call a for sale by owner, Tim?" I was like, "Well, yeah, it's somebody selling their house on their own, right?" Yeah. Well, so we have a script where you call them. Okay. So he gives me this whole script, and I was like, okay. He's like, "Well, here's the thing. It's not that they just don't know any real estate agents, so they don't know what the options and possibilities are for selling their house." I was like, "Oh, well, that's interesting. It's a gold mine, right? Absolute gold mine. These people don't know. They don't even know what realtors are.
Yeah.
This is perfect." Come to find out, when you call a for sale by owner, you're the 87th call they've got in the last hour, and they're pissed off. Like, they're like, "Are you a realtor? Do not call me ever again." So he's like, "Well, no. What you do is you tell them that you have a buyer and you want to come preview the house. And then when you're there, you do a listing presentation." I was like, "That seems a little questionable, dude. I don't know." Right? So I did that one time, and I walked out and felt like I need to take a shower. I was like, "This is just gross. Like, this is not."
The house itself or the process?
The process.
Okay.
Yeah, no, the house was actually clean and nice, right? But the process, I was like, I basically manipulated in not in a good, healthy manipulation. It was like with ill intention kind of manipulation to get into this house, right? Mm-hmm. I was like, this kind of sucks. So I decided that I was like, okay, nothing this guy can tell me will help me build my business. So I started knocking on doors. I actually got a listing knocking on doors. It was my first or second listing, and I listed it. Well, no, I'm sorry, it was my second listing. My first listing I got because I told him I'd do it at a discount, but if I got the buyer, then I wanted, so I did open house after open house after open house until I actually got a buyer. And then he argued with me that I don't deserve because, I already got my flat fee for listing it because I was trying to come up with anything I could, right?
Right.
I was like, man, people are terrible. That's okay. I'm going to knock on doors. I had this just relentless positivity, right? And so I'm knocking on doors, and I found one of my neighbors about 3 blocks away. He's like, "Yeah, we got a condo we're trying to sell." Awesome. So I get my second listing, and I'm prepping for an open house. But right before that happened, it was 9/11, the whole tower thing, the terrorist attack, and everybody shut down everything. So my first sale was right after that. My second sale, I could hardly even get people to the open house, right? It was really, really, really hard. And so by December of that year, and then I started, I couldn't find any training. Like, I was like, just tell me what to do. So then I decided, well, what about people who are getting foreclosed on? And by the way, nobody's telling me about this stuff. It's like I'm having to discover it. Like, somebody should have told me how to do this. Like, I signed up for the wrong company, obviously. So I was like, well, these people are losing their house. So I'm going to go in. I'm going to help them sell their house before it gets lost. It makes sense. So then I would get notice of default and foreclosure lists, and like from the county and stuff like that. And then I would go and just knock on doors for hours. I'd be knocking on doors. "Hey, my name's," and talk about an awkward conversation.
Right.
Somebody answers the door. You're about to lose your house. But you have to say it in a tactful way. So how do you say it? "My name's Tim Chase. I'm a local real estate agent, and I specialize in helping families that need to quickly get rid of their house or take some sort of action to help their families." So I was trying to do like something to make it softer, right?
Yeah.
And I found a couple. One guy was in jail, so I had to negotiate a deal with him in jail. That was fun. He's a weird dude. He deserved to be in jail.
It wasn't an exciting story.
No, he's a total creep, like weird guy. But anyway, long story short, that's a whole other path. Long story short is, like, for like that whole year in 2001. Well, I guess I got my license before 9/11, so I had kind of started before that. But it really hitting it really, really hard from there towards the end of the year was it was so tough, right? It was so tough. And like, I'm like, how am I going to pay rent? This sucks, right? And my brother-in-law says, hey, I've been doing these mortgages for a while. Maybe you want to look at it. And my first response was, I'm a real estate agent. I'm not going to do no mortgages. Don't you know I took 150 hours of education? You know, like
I'm good.
Yeah. And so he's like, okay. He's like, that's fine. He's like, but I closed 3 deals last month. How many did you close? I'm like, that's none of your business. I'll close more than you next month, right? And he's like, well, I'll tell you what. He's like, I want to buy a renter's list. He's like, I got this idea for renters. He's like, would you want to cold call him? I was like, dude, I'll cold call anybody. I don't care. So we bought this list of like, I don't know, 500 or 1,000 renters. And I would just sit there at night and pound the, hey, my name's Tim Chase. You know, I'm looking to help families get into a home. And I actually ended up getting deals doing that. I was like, whoa, okay, so cold calling renters might work. This is not so bad. But the deals were like, but by that time I had just financially just beat myself up. You know what I mean? I was like, man, this is really, really hard. And so I was like, okay, maybe you should just show me what this mortgage thing's about. And so he shows me, and I was like, okay, so what do I got to do? And I would say within 60 days of starting, I've got like 4 or 5 transactions going. And I had been going like 6 or 9 months in real estate. I had a buyer closed, a seller closed, and 1 listing. And I was like, that is not enough to support my family. You know what I mean? My savings is depleted. And I was like, hold on a second. I just got, okay, are mortgages just easier? And what I realized is a lot of people make a lot of money in real estate. Right? A lot of people do. A lot of people make a living. A lot of people support their family. A lot of people have a lot of success. But it's very important for a person to, anybody can do anything, of course, but it's very important for somebody to really have success and long-term success is do something that you have a natural tendency for, and don't fight it. I thought that was real estate, and it wasn't for me, but mortgages clicked, and it worked, and I could explain numbers, I could display numbers, I could talk about break-even points better and buying down your rate and what that means, and like it just made like my natural abilities were way more geared towards mortgages. And so I kept my real estate license because I never want to take that test again. And by the way, when I took the test, I had dial-up internet. I had AOL. You've got mail. Like that's when this happened, right? And I had a 3-ring binder, and I had sharp, like a highlighter and little tabs, like just like you're in like some college chemistry class, right? And you just like you're trying to memorize everything. And the study guides were just printouts from the school,
right? And
you made your own flashcards if you wanted to do that. And then I just told my wife, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to pass this test. There's a lot of data. I have no idea what they're going to ask me. Whereas now you can take an online test and they're like, okay, you're scoring about 70%. You're probably ready to go. You know what I mean? But back then you're like, I have zero clue what they're going to ask. Like nothing. And my 3-ring binder's like this thick. And then I go in and I take the test, nervous as heck, but it's all handwritten, right? And I take the test, and then they won't tell you what your score is. And you're just sitting there while the lady's grading it in the lobby, right?
Oh my gosh.
And you're just sitting there. I'm like, holy crap. It was more nerve-wracking waiting for them to grade it than it was taking the test, for sure. And she's like, well, good news, you passed. I was like, yes, what was my score? She's like, we don't tell scores. It's like, you've got to tell me. Did I pass by 1% or did I get a 99? Like, I got to know.
Yeah.
She's like, no, we don't tell people. It's just either pass or fail. You passed. I was like, oh, okay, good enough, right? So it was a little bit different world back then, for sure. No do not calls. Text messages didn't exist. A lot of direct mail worked actually fairly good. People had yellow page ads still. So that's how I got into lending. And then from there, I just kept going.
Ran with it.
Just kept going. Yeah. So that's what I've been doing for the last couple decades.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That was a nice long answer, huh?
That's okay.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think, because you just said couple decades. It's crazy to think, too, because I remember.
You were 13?
sitting, I think I was in 6th grade
Oh.
when 9/11.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Wow.
I was sitting in Mrs. Gowell's class, and she turned the lights off and made us put everything in our desk and
Oh, wow.
take a minute.
Really?
Yeah.
You were in 6th grade. You know what happened to me in 6th grade? The space shuttle exploded in 6th grade. So they took all of us out of our 6th grade class into the library, all the 6th graders. And they rolled, those TV carts that they had in elementary school, like the
Yes.
VCRs and stuff. They rolled it in and plugged in, and we just sat there and watched the news. Like that was like their version of helping, I guess. Like we all just watched the news for like half a day of this space shuttle exploding.
Gosh.
Crazy. And then my dad, I think he wasn't in 6th grade, maybe he was in middle school, was the Kennedy assassination. And so like all these weird like trigger events, like you just remember. Like I remember 9/11 because I woke up ready to do real estate. I woke up early. I was ready to roll.
Were you in town?
No, I lived in Salt Lake at the time. So I was very excited to get going. But I didn't know anybody in Salt Lake, by the way. I got transferred there. I worked for a place called the World of Tile in the 90s. And they sold tile and,
They still have those, don't they? World of Tile?
They got sold, but yeah, they're more of a corporate thing now. They had transferred me from Denver to Grand Junction to Salt Lake, and then actually, to go further into the real estate story, the reason I got into the idea of doing real estate at all was because some people would come in. These dudes would pull up in these Cadillac Escalades, right? And they're like 30 years old, and at the time I was in my 20s, but they roll up, and they're like, buy all this like nice tile, and I'm like, man, what do you do? Oh, I'm a real estate agent. I'm like, bro, I got to figure that. What do you get? He's like, oh, you just got to go to a real estate school. What's a real estate school?
Easy.
How do you? I can go to a real estate school. How do you do that? And so that actually, for about a year or two of talking to those people, of just seeing like, and obviously late 90s houses were it was a good real estate market at the time. So it wasn't a depressed market at all. So they were having some success, which made me think, I too can have success in real estate. They're probably still successful in real estate. I should have probably linked up with one of them instead of this Yahoo that I linked up with. But end of the day, I own it. I'm glad the journey I went on, though. So
Yeah.
Well,
you might not have been here.
I don't know what the heck would have happened. Yeah.
So what do you think you'd be doing if you weren't in London?
That's an interesting question. I'll tell you what I thought I was going to do. I have a strange addiction to bicycles. Gosh. And I'm older than 8. Okay. I'm older than 10. Just calm down. But I took it very serious. I thought I wanted to race for a while, and then there were some dudes that are just way faster than me in racing. Bicycles, like mountain bikes.
Okay.
And then I decided that I wanted to be a mechanic because I really, really, really enjoy mechanical stuff. Like I could be in my garage for half a day working on mechanical stuff. It doesn't even matter what it is. Like I just enjoy it. So I really got into that, and I did like some race team mechanic stuff and some this and that. And then my brother-in-law, to go further down the story, I was working at a ski and snowboard and bicycle shop like combination. It's actually in the Citadel Mall over there, right? My sister got married to a guy, and he was an entrepreneur. He's maybe 10 years older than me or something. He shows up. He's like, well, what are you going to do? I was like, I'm going to snowboard all winter. I'm going to bicycle all summer. He's like, no, what are you going to do? And then so he starts getting crazy, like just into the sales thing. Like you're a natural salesperson. You need to learn how to sell. This is mid 90s, right? He's like, you're a natural salesperson. You need to harness this. And I was like, I have no idea what this guy's talking about. So he bought me a Tony Robbins tape. We went, like, there in the mall next door, there was like, it wasn't like a Hastings. It was like I don't know. And it was like a they sold like audio books and magazines and books and stuff like that. And he walks over and he gets me a Tony Robbins tape. And I've never heard of Tony Robbins before. I listened to it after like 5 minutes. I'm like, I got anxiety from this guy. Like I can't, my gosh, calm down, bro. Right? Like relax. Right? Like he's like, I want you to listen to this. Like just listen to this and then tell me what you think about it. And I was like, I don't know. This guy's freaking me out a little bit. Like he's a little much. And then after a while, he just kept kind of pushing on me. And then after a while, I've realized, and I came to the conclusion, like, I am a salesman. I sell stuff. I enjoy selling stuff. that's cool that you're a mechanic. You like that, but that can be more of a, in your garage on your own time, build a car or something. You know what I mean? Do something like that. You need to sell stuff. So then this is mid 90s. I got really, really, really into the techniques of sales, and I started studying sales a lot. Like, I wouldn't say an unhealthy amount, but I started getting to where, I mean, I'm like, I don't know, early 20s, and I got notebooks of like how to sell stuff, and I'm watching body language of people doing presentations on VHSs, right? Like, and I still work at a bicycle shop, but I'm like, I no longer want to be a mechanic. And the head mechanic there's like, we really want you to be a mechanic. I was like, no, dude, like, this is my calling. This is what I am. This is my calling. So I just went deep dive into sales. I started going to seminars and practicing and role playing and just studying the psychology of it, why people would like what. And here's the weird thing: people don't change. Like that's the weird thing. Well, people change, but humanity doesn't really change. Like, what motivates a person, the core of that doesn't change. I don't know if it's ever changed, and it holds true today. If you read sales books from 100 years ago, they hold true. Like, but the stories, the language and the verbiage was different then, so it was a little weird. It was a little strange. But like, read Think and Grow Rich, and you're like, he starts talking about the only reason men are bald because they wear hats all the time. You're like, well, this is stupid. There's some weird stuff in there. But, or maybe that was When Friend Influenced People. Maybe I can't remember, one of those two books said that. It was a long time ago, right? And then, but you look at the core concept of the sale, and you're like, this is exactly the same. It's just a different product, a different verbiage, different language, different vernacular, basically, right? Other than that, it's the same.
Right.
So I'm slightly fascinated with the human end of that. I find it exciting. I'll give you a tip on that. Ready? People buy for emotional reasons. They justify with logic. You guys have heard me say that a gazillion times in our sales meetings. Every purchase that you make is based off an emotion, but you cannot admit to yourself, and you certainly don't want to suggest that to a client, that they're buying for emotional reasons. They walk into a house, it just feels right. They walk into a house, it reminds them of something. They walk into a house, it has a certain smell. They walk into a house, whatever it is, it's not pure logic. If it was pure logic, we would all probably be riding horses or walking. You know what I mean? And we would eat very, very bland food. We wouldn't have these fancy juices because we like to feel as humans. Right. But if we feel like if we get even the suggestion that we're making our decisions based off of emotion, first off, how do you feel when somebody tells you you're being emotional? Does that inspire you?
Right.
Or it really doesn't.
You're like,
well, screw you.
What do you mean?
Right? So what you have to do is then you have to take that emotion that you are trying to get them excited about, or even just to feel something positive, whether you're selling kitchen knives or computers or houses, whatever it is, and you have to get that emotional level to a point where they can make a decision, but they can't make a decision off emotion, so you have to justify logic. And the only way to get that logic is to do a good kind of what we call the needs probe, but a good questions in the beginning to learn what logical reasons are going to tip that emotional scale to where they can say, I feel it, and here's the justification for this feeling. Therefore, I'm not doing it based off emotion. I'm doing this because it's a good decision. Right. It's like when people go on dates, and they've done these studies. They go on a date and it's boring. They may want a second date, may not. Right? They did this whole kind of study thing. If they did something that created some sort of excitement, like maybe they went go-kart racing, or maybe they rode horses, or maybe they did something, right? Or there was an event going on, they were at a concert, something like that. What they do is they're linking that emotion to this person, and they're justifying, like, do I want to go out with this person again? Yeah, I felt this. Yeah. Right? Whether it was manufactured or real, I felt this. And so that's all a sale is. It's just it's transferring my emotion, my belief about my product to you. And if I can do that in effective and a professional way, now you feel the same way I do. Mm-hmm. And here's where a mistake a lot of salespeople make is they don't have that deep emotional anchor to their own product. And so how am I supposed to give you something I don't have? It's
Yeah.
impossible, right? I can't. If you believe that renting is the best thing for people and you're trying to sell houses, it's not good. If you believe that your money's best spent somewhere else and that mortgages are horrible because the amortization schedule just makes the banks rich and BlackRock richer and you poorer, how can I sell if that's my belief system, right?
Right.
If I believe that it's a vehicle to help people achieve home ownership, which then thereby they can now leverage that home ownership to either build a little rental empire or even just to build more equity for their family, and I believe that I'm putting them in the best situation, all I have to do is give you that same thing,
Right.
and we're good, right?
Yeah.
So,
Well, and that's the
Yeah.
successful side of it all. So, with your decades of experience, what is one of your best or favorite experiences been in the lending world? Just one.
well, the most recent one,
Okay.
actually, I'll tell you two from the last year. One was a family that had declared bankruptcy about 5 years ago. They've been making good financial choices since then. Like they've been paying their bills, they've been not overspending. When they came to me, they were renting. They were referred to us by their real estate agent, and he's the one that actually said, "Hey, just talk to Tim, see if it'll work." And there's kind of two kinds of people, I think, in this situation: the people that feel like they're victims of bankruptcy and like the system screwed them, and then there's people that look at it and they're almost, I'm not going to say embarrassed, but they're like ashamed, like, I can't believe I did that. Like I can't
Yeah.
believe that I mismanaged myself so much that I got to that point, and they just tear themselves up, right? They're embarrassed. They don't want to tell anybody about. There's other people that are like it's part of their financial planning, as
Right.
as we've said before, right? It's like, I got to wait another 36 months before I can do that again, right? So these people, it really had an emotional impact, like a hardcore emotional impact. They were super nice. They didn't think they were ever going to buy a house. They've been renting. It's a family that had been renting for long time, and they just thought that's that. And then when I sat and I talked to them, they were really embarrassed about their previous financial stuff, and embarrassed is the wrong word, just upset with themselves,
Yeah.
right? You could tell. And when I said, I think you guys can buy a house. Like I really do. Your debt ratios are good. You've been paying your bills on time. And life happens. Like that's what most people don't understand that have gone through something. Like life happens.
Yeah.
You paid your credit card bills late. You got a house foreclosed on. You went through bankruptcy. You got a divorce. You got your car foreclosed on. Your kid doesn't want to talk to you. Like all these things.
Yeah.
Like life happens, right? Like that's, we're not here to have the perfect pleasure cruise. Like it's we have challenges, and how do we overcome these challenges and get better? So the reason this is one of my favorite stories is they said, well, you're giving us a little bit of excitement, a little bit of hope, but we're not going to get too excited until it's. I said, well, it's probably very healthy. You know, people ask me, are we done? Oh, you're not done till they give you the keys at closing. That's when you're done, right?
Yeah.
Until then, who knows what could happen. Going through the whole process, they were so on the ball. They worked so hard at it. We always tell people there's only two things that you need to do to have a great mortgage experience, to be early, to have a great experience. Give me timely and accurate information. That's it. You give me timely, you give me information quickly, like when I ask for it, you get it to me by the end of the day, and it's accurate. You give me all the pages of your asset statement or your tax returns or something. Like make sure it's all accurate. If you can do that, it will go very smooth.
Right.
You don't do one of those two things, and it can be challenging. These people were very on the ball. Once we got closer and closer, the wife's telling me, Tim, I don't want to get too excited. She's like, but I'm kind of getting really excited, but she felt like disappointment was around the corner. You know what I mean? She's like, I can't get too excited because she's like, I understand things can happen. I understand. And in my head, I'm like, this is like one of the most slam dunk deals that I could think of. Like this is like they've really taken care of their business. They had a small blip in their life. I don't know, a 2-year blip, 3-year blip, something that, maybe finances got weird, job got weird. I don't know the cause of it, but that's not a life sentence, right? And as we go through and then we get to closing, they were so freaking excited. They were so grateful. Like they're just holding in their emotions. They couldn't believe that they were homeowners. Like this was like this monumental thing. We're homeowners. We're walking out, and the lady stops me in the lobby at the time, not the lobby, but in the building, the big kind of foyer area. Mm-hmm. We're walking out. She stops me. She's like, "Tim, does this feeling ever go away?" And I said, "Do you mean the excitement feeling?" She's like, "I'm so happy right now. This is so." I was like, "It's all yours. You got the keys.
Yeah.
It's yours. You guys can go there. You can paint the walls what color you want. You can dig a hole in the yard for no reason other than dig a hole in the yard. Nobody can say anything about it, right? It's you."
Gosh.
So that kind of thing to me is really, really awesome. I've had a couple people who were had some stints in prison that have gotten out and severe addiction issues and have worked through that and just like put their head down, nose to the grindstone, and it takes a few years, but they get to the point where they're like, we're ready to buy a house. They take it so serious. Like the American dream of home ownership for these kind of people is not taken lightly. It is not a give me. It's life has kicked their ass. They have worked really, really hard, and they appreciate it to the point where these people are never going to foreclose on their house, like ever.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, they come from such a place, and then the work and the buildup, and if you maintain all of that, it's fun to see.
I wish we had more clients that were like that.
Those stories.
Yeah, because it's super inspiring and exciting, and it just reminds me of just the level, like when you truly achieve something off of your own hard work, right? And you see these people that came out of adversity and they've achieved it, and they recognize that they've achieved it, and they recognize that they actually earned it.
I think it's a game changer for them too, mentally.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, well, 100%. It just shows them that they are capable of so much that they didn't expect. Yeah. Especially coming from a place that they came from. Yeah. And it's just kind of fun to watch all of that morph, being a part
completely
of that.
Amazing. Yeah. It's those are my favorite. I mean, there's a lot of other good stories and good situations and very happy clients, but the ones that really worked hard and have this level of appreciation that you can only have having come from adversity. Right. Like I'm not downplaying other people that haven't had adversity, but I don't think that they can reach that level of appreciation and gratitude having not come from that adversity. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So, yeah.
Reverse of that. Yeah. What's one of your worst?
It depends how you're asking that. These are people who have closed or who have not closed.
Closed.
Closed?
Let's do one closed.
Now, what do you mean by worst?
Just one of your worst experiences.
One of my worst experiences, I would say, would probably be when an employee doesn't take care of their business properly, and this has happened a couple times, and then they leave my company because I don't have a lot of, I shouldn't say that. I try to help people succeed within our company, but there becomes a point where it's
you can only help so much.
You need to you need to exit. And when they exit, and I've had to make business corrections to make sure this doesn't happen anymore. But in 7 years ago or so, I didn't have some of these safety measures in. And so they would leave, and then I would get phone calls from clients. It says, hey, we are 3 weeks into our contract, and we haven't heard anything. And I'm looking through our files. I'm like, I don't have a file for you. Are you sure you're calling the right company? Yeah, so-and-so was our loan officer. So-and-so left a week ago. I literally have nothing. I don't even have a credit report on you. I don't. Ugh. This has happened to me before, and luckily we've been able to come through, explain the situation, eat a whole lot of humble pie. It sucks. It does not taste good.
Sure.
And then from there, be able to get the transaction closed and give them everything we can to help them achieve it, because it's not fair to them at all. But since then, we have put in safety measures that can't happen in our company. And it's not just that can't happen. It's against the rules. It's we have people and systems in place now that do not allow that to happen.
Right.
So that's
live and you learn.
Yeah. Lessons learned.
That's
right?
the whole point.
Yeah. So it's really not clients. It's more
behind the scenes.
It'd be behind the scenes stuff that could really be rough. Yeah.
Why is it good for buyers to know the difference between looking at a mortgage broker or a lender?
Money all comes from the same place. Okay. The difference is going to be that a mortgage broker has access to different rates, different costs, and different programs. So understand that if money all comes from the same place, what are you willing to sell that money for? Okay. Now a bank has a lot of good stuff. I've worked at banks. I was a branch manager at a local one here. We even had our company turn into a bank for a while, and then I decided to switch it back to just pure brokerage. And I feel like the freedom of the brokerage, and by the way, when you talk to a bank loan officer, they're going to tell you all the reasons that brokers suck, and they're going to tell you all the reasons that banks rule. When you talk to a broker, they're going to tell you all the reasons that brokers rule and banks suck, right? And my take on it is, they both have their place. They both have good stuff in them. I find it to be more client-centered on the brokerage side. I will tell you the challenges of brokerages are when they're not run well. That's hard. And the challenges of banks is when they're run too management heavy and they become operationally dependent instead of sales dependent. And then that creates a very bad environment internally to actually get your business done, and it increases costs. So you have to find a good balance, a good brokerage, or a really good bank, one of the two. Sometimes you get a better deal, one or the other. But if I were to go look for a mortgage and I wasn't in lending, knowing what I know, I would 100% go to a broker, 100%, because I know I'm going to have a higher probability of my experience and my costs being better on both of those. But I would also verify who the heck I was working with.
Right.
My phone, somebody should turn my phone off. It's kind of rude, really,
Is that calming music for you? It's quite the ringtone.
It's Bach. So I would say that the difference really is going to come down to a broker. If done right, a brokerage will give you a lot of cost and experience benefit. If done wrong, it can be equally as bad, if not worse, than a bad bank. So long story short, know who you're working with.
Yeah.
Read your Google reviews, ask your real estate agent, how many deals have you closed with them? Who are you working with? What's your experience been? And go that direction.
Yeah.
Because a really, really good loan officer can make a crappy bank look okay, right? A bad loan officer can make a great bank look really crappy. So know who you're working. And I'd say the same thing with real estate agents. What's better? A new real estate agent or a real estate agent who's been doing it for 20 years? What's better? Somebody who's on a team or somebody who's solo? What's better? In-house builder's agent or an outside person? Like every situation, it really boils down to know who you're working with.
Yeah.
And if you know who you're working with, then I would say go work with that person who's been doing it for 6 months instead of 16 years. They might have more time for you. They may work harder for you. And maybe they have a team and a manager that can help guide them through everything. Like you may get the experience you want. So I don't want to bash on banks or brokers because I actually find pretty good value in both of them. It just depends on your business model.
I think it's just very subjective.
Yeah, it depends on your business model, and we have found that brokering is better for us, but we're not opposed to going back to banking sometime in the future, but it's just the market's not there.
Yeah.
So
we were talking about this. I was talking with another agent in the office the other day, and we got on the conversation of the difference between interest rates and mortgage rates, and how some people think that if one does something, the other's supposed to do the same, and how they're supposed to be. Can you explain?
Yeah. Do you know what interest rates have done since the Fed cut the rates? They've gone up.
Right.
Oh yeah, they've gone up by a quarter to a half point. So since they cut the rates.
Yeah.
And just today, the mortgage-backed securities are off by, I think right before I walked in here, they were off by 47 basis points, which is a lot. It's almost a half a point, right? Of the cost for the mortgage-backed security.
Right.
So understand that when the Fed cuts the rate, they are cutting the suggested rate of which banks loan money to each other on an overnight basis. Okay, so if you have, if you're a bank and you received so many deposits that day, or whatever the situation is, the Federal Reserve requires, or the Fed in general is what you want to call it, but they require that you have so much liquid assets. So you have to have a certain amount of liquidity based off your activities for that day.
Right.
So you may close your books that night and find out we're $10 million short on our liquid reserves. So we need to borrow $10 million just till morning. So we're going to borrow from this bank who happens to have $20 million excess based off that day's activity. So we're going to borrow that money, and we're going to pay you the Fed suggested rate of 3 3/4 on that money. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's all the Fed fund rate is what it's called. That's what that really does. But keep in mind, if I'm borrowing money from you overnight, and let's say it's $500 million, and the rate is 7% versus 2%, my cost is high.
Right.
I have to make up that cost somewhere. Does that make sense? So it will have a residual impact floating down to mortgages, to car loans, to everything else. But I would say the bigger impact on mortgage loans, we look at what's called the UMBS. It's a mortgage-backed security that basically people like to look at the 10-year Treasury and this and that, and that's oftentimes close, but the UMBS is truly where what I say, the rubber meets the road, right? And what that means is that banks adjust their pricing for that day based off what that UMBS is doing that day. And not to get too technical on it, but when people ask me what impacts rates, everything. So you get your consumer price index comes out, or your PCE comes out, or your PPE, whatever, all these reports that come out, or builder confidence reports, like all these reports come out, and they have a direct impact on your interest rates because they impact bonds, which are closely tied to mortgage-backed securities. So I know it sounds a little goofy, but when you look at it and you say, well, if we get a jobs report that's favorable, does that help or hurt interest rates? It has more of an impact than the Fed cutting rates. So the Fed cutting rates, when you cut a rate, you're basically saying money should be cheaper now. Okay? So if money's cheaper, that means I can spend more. Well, if money's cheaper for too long, prices are going to go up because people are spending a lot of money. Look what happened to the houses, right? So in 22, right? Or 21, or I don't know, a year after
Around
COVID
there,
kicked in,
21.
right? Money was really, really, really cheap. Super cheap. Like people are getting mortgage rates at like 2 3/4, right? So money's super cheap, which means I can pay more for my house or buy a bigger house. Well, if everybody's doing that, then the price of the houses, because it's market demand, starts going up. If the cost of money is high, meaning let's say the Feds raise rates and the residual impact and the consumer perception, everything, rates go up. Now all of a sudden money's expensive. I can't spend as much. I can't borrow as much. I can't go overpay for a house as much. So now money's expensive. So what the Fed has done is the Fed has said, we have to raise rates to slow down the inflation, slow down prices from increasing. So we're going to raise interest rates, and everything kind of slows down a little bit. Well, you run a risk of hitting a recession if you do that for too long. So now they look at that, and a lot of people said they should have cut definitely in like July. They waited till September, but when people say, well, did rates get better from this rate cut? My general answer is yes, but 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks before the Fed cut rates, because the market anticipated that from happening, anticipated that happening. Had they cut anything other than 50 basis points, which they did, it would have been really bad. But they did. They cut the full 50 basis points, and it seems like the market already baked all that in, and your mortgage rates didn't get any better. And in fact, they're still seeing inflationary issues, right? So if inflation keeps going up, I mean, people don't want to spend that much on houses, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of weird though. It's like you look at stocks and bonds. So bonds are really, really closely tied to mortgage-backed securities. So when stocks are up, that usually means bonds are kind of down. Bonds are like a safe investment, right? Yep. When stocks are getting hammered, it's usually the bonds like, let's put our money safe, and then that helps mortgage-backed securities, which then helps interest rates. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Nope, a conversation that we were having, and so you had asked me last time I was here, if I were a lender, what would I do differently? So if you
I
were
a realtor,
what are things that you would do differently?
If I were a realtor, if I could be a real estate agent for a day and work with...
I know that you've already been a realtor.
Yeah, well, I wasn't a very good one, and it was a really long time ago. So
with the advancements and everything that, could probably...
So if I was a realtor for a day, how would I... what would I do in terms of... generating business, or in terms of how I would do my business, like with lenders and stuff like that?
I guess either, because I know that when we talked about it on the lending, I had kind of walked you through a situation that I had recently gone through that was just kind of a nightmare on the lender's end, and I just had so many questions and lots of confusion and frustration. But
so if I was a realtor, what I would wish that realtors would do, like if I was a realtor, and I could cast a spell to make realtors do something very specifically, I'd really go, the very first thing would be to be extremely cooperative within the transaction. And what I mean by that is we have real estate agents that, like, it takes, both real estate agents have to be cooperative and professional. And if they do that, then the person wants to buy a house, the person wants to sell a house. And if this person gets upset, well, you as the realtor, you're the professional, right? The client selling the house is not the professional. You're the professional. So you need to display it in a way that they can understand it, they can digest it, and that it's good for them to be able to understand what's going on. And it's your job to actually know what's going on, right? So you have to be educated. But the very first thing, the first wish I would have as a real estate agent was everybody in the transaction acted like big boys and big girls. Everybody was professional. Everybody treat each other like true professionals. And when you make a phone call and to the other agent, and they're never going to. How do you know they're never going to do it? Like, go talk to the client, communicate, right? Go talk to the client. And if there's an inspection issue, don't or appraisal issue, don't light a fire where there doesn't need to be one.
Yeah.
Right.
100%.
So I was watching. I went to a Reggie Rivers, who's a running back for the Broncos, long time ago. He's like kind of a business motivational speaker, and it's actually right over here at Antlers. Treasurer Davis's team sponsored it, and so they had several people, and a lot of other agents were there. And one thing that he said that happens in real estate is the same thing that happens in other businesses. Is people, when you say what do you do? What's your specialty? And they say they're a problem solver, right? Okay, that's cool. You're a problem solver. You can solve problems, because there's always problems in real estate, right? And he said that's what he would feel about himself. And he gave an example of his son. His son, hey, Dad, he's maybe he's going to his college class that day or something. Hey, Dad, I'm getting ready to go to school. I don't have any money for lunch. Can I get $10? No problem. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, go to your classes, do your thing. I'll get you $10. Hey, afterwards, you want to hang out for a little bit? No, I'm good. And so what he says is, like, he solved the problem. But it didn't. Yeah. Now the client's like, okay. So in real estate, the idea is, if you're a problem solver, what happens when there is no problem and everything's going good, but you specialize in solving problems? You may manufacture a problem that doesn't need to be there.
Right.
Or you may light a fire to something that doesn't need to be there. So that would be the very, very first thing is everybody act professional, treat your clients professional, and be educated in what you're doing.
Yeah.
So, and if you do that, then we have a very synergistic, like everybody wins. You get repeat referral business. Everybody's happy. If you go in like a bulldog attorney trying to sue somebody, you've pissed everybody off and you got what you wanted.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to work with you again because you are a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
Right.
There's been a couple of those, and it's just like, because we were raised with my dad saying we don't have problems, we have solutions. And so it's like when you go through a hiccup or something of that nature, and it's just like, okay, what can all of the parties involved in this do to just resolve it? Yeah. And we can just continue moving forward.
You still want to sell your house, right? You still want to buy the house, right?
Let's
okay,
not
cool.
prolong it. Let's
figure
not
this out.
Erupt it. Let's
and then I understand sometimes there's things that are insurmountable and the seller's not going to do it, the buyer's not going to do it. Okay, that's fine. We can shake hands and move on. It's cool. Right? Like, well, that was unfortunate. Let's go to our next one.
Yeah.
You know?
But
for the sake of time, let's throw one more out.
One more?
Or two.
When do you think you're going to get diabetes from all the mints you eat?
I stopped eating mints. I broke 2 teeth.
It's about time.
I broke 2 teeth and I had to go to the dentist and get 2 implants.
Oh.
Yeah, so.
Okay, what common...
I'm off the mints.
I'm off.
I actually went. I felt like Uncle Buck moving from like cigarettes to cigars to chewing tobacco. So I went from Lifesaver mints that were like really hard on my teeth, and I was like, okay, well I got to go easier. So I started going to Tic Tacs, and so I ate, I don't know, probably 20,000 Tic Tacs, and then I was like, okay, this probably isn't good either. So.
Glad you figured out.
Yeah, it sometimes it takes a while for me. You know, I get a little obsessed. So.
What common red flags do you see borrowers make during the loan process?
I need you to define that better. When you say red flags,
mistakes.
Mistakes meaning intentional mistakes, like they misrepresent something, or just they unknowingly made a mistake?
Let's say intentionally misrepresent.
That is
unintentionally. Sorry.
Unintentionally.
Well, if you misrepresent something, because I went through a situation like that.
So if you intentionally misrepresent, usually, first off, that happens so rare right now. It's awesome. Like it used to happen a lot, and now between technology, between the way we do verifications of employment, between how we do tax returns verifications, like everything is pretty well documented.
We had a guy who he told us that he had 4 dependents, actually had 6.
Oh.
We found out that there was an income property in a different state that hadn't had taxes on it. Hadn't had taxes paid on it.
All that stuff's going to be found out, though, right? Like,
well, we found all that out. Yeah.
If you have a foreclosure, it's going to be found out. If you have another property, it's going to be found out. Like the technology now. You can run a report. I can run a report and find out every house a loan officer was the originating loan officer on within a certain county, a certain time frame. Like everything is documented, right? So for you to say I own a couple more properties and you're hiding them, it's going to come up unless you're super, super devious and good at it. Yeah. So, and then at that point, I don't know what you're going to do.
Because we had received the application, and then as soon as everything started working, it was like, okay, hold on.
That, I would say as far as unintentional representation of problems, people a lot of times they don't understand the lending process well enough, so it's like they try to tell me a story to justify something, but it doesn't. Like, it is what it is. It's like
like that was emotional.
It's like it's a math problem, right? It's like you either here's all the variables. Can we get to the answer? And so misrepresenting a variable does not help your situation at all, because all it does is complicate it and prolong the finding of the solution.
Yeah.
We don't really have a lot.
That's good.
That's good. It used to be different, but now it's
well, yeah. I know there's a page in my buyer presentation packet that I have, and it's like mortgage do's, mortgage don'ts.
Oh yeah. And
you
don't go buy a house or a car.
Boat. I had somebody buy a car, And I was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
what are you doing?
Yeah.
And
I
don't move money
will
around.
say we've had quite a few people not get approved because within the last year they bought a car. Not during the transaction. We usually counsel them pretty good, but sometime in the last year they have a $900 car payment, and that is the one thing that stops them. And then it really sucks because had you bought a house and then went and bought a car, you'd probably be okay. Or if you bought a cheaper car, you didn't need the $80,000 F-250. You could have bought a $20,000 10-year-old car.
So that leads me, how soon should buyers start chatting, in your opinion, with a lender to keep things like that off of the radar?
Right away. Like if as soon as you think you might want to buy a house, call your lender and say, hey, I'm a year away, but here's where my situation is. Cool.
Yeah.
Let's figure it out. Go to
Cool.
myfico.com, get a free credit report. Find out where you're at. Have a ballpark of where you're at. Understand, I need my overall debt ratios to be like in the 40s. I need to have at least 5% for my down payment or whatever your program you're going for. I need to budget for my closing costs and having a conversation with a loan officer like now.
Yeah.
If you're gonna buy a house in 2 years, just talk to them.
Yeah.
Even if you don't want your credit pulled down, just talk to them and say, what do I need to do?
Well, and it's
Right.
free to get your advice. So if it's something that's going to happen in the future, near or far, why not figure out?
I have one last question for you. Why is 719 Lending your favorite lending company? Like why do you love us so much?
The smoothies, first of all.
You just love us for our smoothies
Just
and these
kidding.
paper straws. Holy smokes! Yeah.
That didn't dissolve.
It didn't dissolve. This is a really, really thick paper straw. But the good news is it's encased in a huge plastic container. So
With a lid.
with a plastic lid. So I'm really glad about
gosh.
this paper straw.
Yes. No, the support, the open conversation, the personality for sure. I mean, some people are strictly business, and I am business.
Yeah.
But I'm also the kind of personality where I'm just,
If you have no personality, then you're, I don't know what you're doing. That comes down to the selling.
And I just really enjoy people, and you can tell too that you guys enjoy people, and I love working with my clients. And kind of the beginning of our podcast started off with, your success stories and how much you love helping people from point A to point B. And, when you kind of have that similar relation, and it's just really easy to work with that. And
it makes it to where everybody can actually enjoy buying a house.
Right.
And the mortgage isn't always fun, but guess what? It can actually be an okay experience.
Yeah. And I always tell clients, work with whoever you feel comfortable with. I can give you all the referrals you want or need, but work with who you feel comfortable with. And I think too,
that's huge. Yeah.
The relationship. I mean, like I said, you guys are supportive. You guys are kind. You're funny.
Are we charming?
I mean, we're cute.
Look at the center of your straw. Mine did start to descend. I didn't realize this.
Oh yeah, it's got like indents.
It's like a
little dimples.
Yeah, it's having a hard time. Thank you for having me on my podcast.
Hey, thanks for cutting to the chase.
That wraps up another episode of Cut to the Chase, agentsuccesspodcast.com. The first time I was interviewed, and I really, really enjoyed it.
We still have a whole backside.
We're going to do part 2. Can we do part 2 later?
Sure.
Okay, we're gonna do part 2, and part 2 sequels are always better, right? Oh no, they're not. It's actually usually this sequel is gonna be good though.
Depends. Yeah, maybe you've had a bad day, and
this is gonna be like a Godfather
something.
sequel where it was actually pretty good on part 2. Okay, thanks. All right, bye.
That wraps up another episode of Agent Success Podcast. Remember, you can find new episodes each week at agentsuccesspodcast.com. We hope you found the insights and best practices shared today truly valuable. And if you did, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Remember, your success is a journey of learning and improvement. So let's keep hustling, thriving, and learning. Until next week, this is Tim Chase.